Welcome back to Voices in Mystery. I'm your host, Nancy Carlson. With me now is an old friend of, not old guy, but an old friend of our show, Michael Z. Lewin. Michael's been on our show just about as many times as anybody else, and thank you for coming back. And you have a new book,
I
so
do
let's talk
indeed.
about that first.
Joe.
Joe.
Oh, Joe, yes. It's set in Indianapolis, as many of my mysteries have been, but this book doesn't involve any of my previous characters, unless you count the area of Fountain Square as a character. My private eye works in Fountain Square. Joe lives in Fountain Square. They don't meet each other. Part of Joe's story does take place on a houseboat, a fictional houseboat on Geist Reservoir. And again, it's all around town.
Is Joe a detective?
No, Joe is a truck driver. And he represents, for me, he represents everyone in a way, because he has a problem that makes him kind of a less complete human being than he would want to be. Now, his problem is not necessarily everyone's, because he struggles whenever he has to spend a night alone.
That's his problem.
That's his problem. It leads him into trouble. Now, he's got a girlfriend and they have a young child, and he really, really, really wants to become a better boyfriend and a better father for them. But then his girlfriend's mother's father died, and his girlfriend had to go to the funeral. And her mother hates Joe, and so he couldn't go, so he got left alone. Well, what do you do when you have a problem and you're confronted with the very thing that triggers it off? Well, one of the things maybe you do is end up on a houseboat out in the middle of Geist Reservoir, because how much trouble can you get in out there?
That's right.
Well, the answer is a bit.
Oh. Now, is he a long-haul truck driver? Because he must sleep in...
He's about 11 years ago, he won some money on the lottery and bought a van, so he'll move things for you.
I see. I was going to say he'd sleep in his truck, wouldn't he, at truck stops? But
that would not be a good idea for...
No, Joe can't do that.
He's trying. No, he wants to become a better human being. He really does. It's not a joke, but you know, you got to deal with what you're dealt.
Now, for our viewers who don't know Michael Z. Lewin, you might think he doesn't sound like he comes from Indianapolis.
Oh,
do you live
come
there?
on, huh? No, I come from Indianapolis. Indianapolis. I graduated North Central High School. I live in Bath in England, and have lived in England for obviously too long to be able to pass here.
No, you don't pass. Your voice doesn't pass.
But I don't pass there either.
Are you fond of Indianapolis? Is that why you set your stories there?
Yes, I mean, is the quick answer. I began writing mysteries set there, and within a year was living in England. Well, that was more than 30 years ago. Now, there is a business logic that would say, why do you need to go 4,000 miles to do research on what you're writing? You don't do that unless you have an affection for it. And I think it's the affection for the city, the interest in the changes, the fact of all the childhood connections that I find whenever I drive around any part of town. So I come back every year, at least for a few days, sometimes longer, just to drive around and look at things and remember stuff and take a few pictures and write a bit of stuff down. And
the internet must help you do some research, though, and
it's transformed. It's transformed things.
It speeded up things, or
it's made all kinds of things possible, especially for those of us who like to be reasonably accurate about where in town things are,
so
where
map,
streets are,
map work, and
all that kind of thing. I was able to, when I was writing about Joe, I had aerial pictures of Geist Reservoir. Well, 10, 20 years ago, that would have been difficult rather than a 5-minute job. It's wonderful. Helps a great deal.
So have you treated some of the icons of Indiana in your novels, such as the Indianapolis 500, or
never done
or the
speedway
zoo, or
stuff.
anything like that?
The zoo has appeared in one of my less likely Indianapolis books, which is a collection of short stories all narrated by a stray dog who is wandering around one summer in Indianapolis, not that he knows, solving problems of other dogs he meets, most of whom have problems that have been caused by human beings in some way. My hero, Rover, considers the intelligence of human beings to be overrated. One of his stories takes him to the zoo. Now, I'm not quite sure that's what you really meant.
It isn't. Wait, those are short stories, or that's a novel?
It's a collection of short stories called Rover's Tales, all narrated by Rover.
That's funny. Do you still write drama, radio drama and such? You've spent quite a bit of time doing that. Do you still do that?
I've done quite a few radio plays broadcast in England and 7 or 8 other countries when they get translated, but the most recent dramatic thing I've done is a stage play.
Really?
That my agent is still sitting on at the moment, claims to have submitted to places, but I've done a few stage plays as well.
So how does that work? When someone publishes a stage play, then it goes in a catalog, and or do you get it right?
For me,
hook up with the director?
For the ones I've done that have been produced, they go to a company that decides to produce them, a theatrical company, or in one case I was commissioned to write a play. So actually, excuse me, none of them have actually been published as such. That's a good idea. Publish some plays.
Yeah.
Good plan.
But they've been performed.
I've had stage plays performed, yes.
That must be, and a lot of radio programs performed.
Yeah, let's say, I think it's 12, 13 different radio plays, and another that has been performed in Germany but not in English. You know, life as a freelance writer gets complicated. As I say, we very rarely say no.
Michael, thank you so much for being on our program. I want to encourage the viewers to pick up Oh, Joe. It's by Michael Z. Lewin. It is on your bookshelves right now in the stores.
With any luck.
And it is set in Indianapolis at Fountain Square and Geist Reservoir, so you'll see a lot of places in that book that you're already familiar with. So thanks very much for being on the show, and come back.
I will indeed. Thank you very much for having me.